And then there's intelligence confusion after intelligence difficulty. There's humans within identifiable limits, unless those limits go away and there's an object involved, probably a technology device involved. There's a human who decides that drugs are better stimulation than what the rich and famous do on their yachts. They go so brain dead and dumb, all they have to do has to do with surviving. They walk up to a person like me and they see me at a distance. They watch me, they listen to me, they know what I'm doing, and they decide what I'm doing needs to stop and change and adapt to what they choose as an option. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all of the other gazillionaires, they don't have to worry about this example. They've got security guards and they probably have weapons and they have these fast cars and they have these yachts where they can just go away from everything and float on water and go fly on a rocket, probably to Mars. But these humans still have the intelligence those who are obviously intelligent also use: control and power. And so there's the engineer who's working for SpaceX, and then there's the mafia thug gangster who sells prostitutes, they sex trafficked from across the globe to make money and dollars to have stimulation after their hard work, and to reward them for what they do for those women they keep alive, they feed, and who they probably stimulate too, to reward them for what they're doing also on their object in outer space. And repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly again, the obviousness of all of this with intelligence, nobody talks about as obvious. But everyone describes as problems and stuff that can't get fixed in society and culture and race and within the fabric of the economics of the civilization we all live. Better than the wild where the bear would eat you and the wolf would hunt you when they're not fed correctly by those animals they eat with freedom. And then there's the anarchist who says, well, that's the most obvious shit they've ever heard anyway, because they don't care about swearing, and all they want to do has to do with what I'm talking about with intelligence. Get rid of all of the problems, get rid of all of the genius, and then get rid of all the idiots and let the stupid shit happen with freedom. But they never explain how they're not going to get fed, how they're going to look any different than they do now, nearly starving to death, angry and violent in their duality they repeat in Seattle and probably elsewhere. And to return to the original discussion, there's these two different examples of intelligence and brilliance and genius, and there's this noticeable difference monetarily at least. Physically, maybe not. Intellectually, probably an argument. But heck gosh darn, there's an even noticeable, more obvious difference with how much each human suffers. And when there's suffering, there's a cause. There's a problem to be solved. There's a decision to choose between options. And then eventually there's no suffering. But unfortunately, worst of all, humans ignore eliminating suffering. And in so many words, play a game. Participate in a game, continue a game, start a game, end a game, begin a game, repeating what they do and have done for gosh darn honestly, probably forever. But what's different now has to do with what's available to describe this atrocity of duality. These computers and these rockets and these spaceships and these electric cars and these super quantum calculating mathematical devices they call occasionally a quantum computer. All a person has to do go into Amazon. Instead of looking for the answers in social life and advocating politically for the equality, all a person has to do with the textbooks available on Amazon. Go learn what professors teach. Go study what the surgeon does with their hands and body and brain. A lot of people get lost. Where do they begin? Where do they start? Where do they finish? Where do they get paid? Where can they sleep? Where do they read? Where do they find food? And most importantly, what are they going to do besides studying and reading and learning and doing mathematics and hiding from the bully, who undoubtedly will follow them as they have followed me for 16 years. The only real next language after describing suffering and talking about suffering and thinking about what has to do with suffering, has to do with only a few options, a few choices to decide. Do what the Pope does, do what His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama does in silence, meditate, pray. Try to build something so beautiful and astronomically awesome. Billionaires go, Om Mani Padme Hum. Join the military, join the government, and be a politician. And the worst part, not much else to do besides go teach about information for humans to learn. Always stuck with the question of intelligence and why they're suffering. Reduce suffering. Do what Riggs and Tinke does at Pema Carpo and offer a cigarette and some booze and some food and a nice warm Om. Talk to people, speak with people, talk to people, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, go show people with pictures on Instagram about how to end suffering. But the biggest unanswered question has to do with, do humans want to end suffering? Do humans want to achieve the success with their intelligence they talk about with their mathematics and speak about with their language, to stop the suffering they talk about and see in public where they have to hand out hand warmers and think about solutions to homelessness regarding some building they call a hotel and use their smart social word and letters to give the equality of the calculus combined with the quantum mechanics to make social housing, to have everything go away so you don't see it and you just have to smell it and you just have to feel it, but then you just let people police it. Keep you safe from it, in other words. And last but not least, has human intelligence been proclaimed as so dominant, humans have ignored the obviousness of their incorrect mathematics and language? Any textbook can describe, going back to World War I and even past, to civil wars and indigenous battles. Now possibly a problem not fixable with so many people who could care less about human life and who enjoy so much the energy they have to ride electric scooters and drive on floating objects.